You've said affirmations for months. Nothing changed. Most people quit here. They blame themselves. What if the problem wasn't your words? What if belief operates on a frequency affirmations can't touch? There's a hidden operating system beneath your conscious mind. Why do identical affirmations work for some but fail for others? What's the exact mechanism that makes belief override logic, evidence, and past experience? How do you install a belief when your subconscious is programmed to reject it? Your brain has a belief firewall. We're going to bypass it. Let me tell you what happened to Sarah. She stood in front of her bathroom mirror every morning for 6 months. I am confident and successful. I am confident and successful. She said it 50 times. She said it with feeling. She said it while looking herself in the eyes. Nothing changed. Her boss still dismissed her ideas. Her voice still shook in presentations. Her stomach still twisted when she had to speak up. She bought different affirmation apps. She wrote them in journals. She recorded herself saying them and played them back while she slept. Still nothing. The gap between her words and her reality kept growing. Eventually, she stopped. She decided affirmations were pseudoscience. She decided positive thinking was for people who didn't understand how the real world worked. But Sarah wasn't wrong to try affirmations. She was just using them at the wrong layer of consciousness. She was trying to paint over a foundation that kept rejecting the paint. Your brain doesn't process affirmations the way you think it does. When you say, "I am wealthy," your brain immediately cross-references that statement against every piece of stored data it has. Your bank account, your debt, your childhood memories of financial stress, your current job, your spending habits. The cross-reference takes approximately 300 milliseconds. It happens faster than conscious thought. Your brain runs the affirmation through its belief filter and returns a verdict. True or false? When the verdict comes back false, something critical happens. Your brain doesn't just ignore the affirmation. It actively reinforces the opposite belief. Every time you say, "I am wealthy," while your subconscious knows you're not, you're actually strengthening the neural pathway that codes for "I am not wealthy." You're digging the groove deeper. This is why affirmations can make you feel worse. This is why some people report increased anxiety after weeks of positive self-talk. They're creating cognitive dissonance, and their brain is resolving it by doubling down on the existing belief. The difference between an affirmation and a belief is electrical. When you speak an affirmation, your prefrontal cortex lights up. That's your conscious, rational mind. When you hold a genuine belief, your limbic system activates. That's your emotional, subconscious mind. Your limbic system is roughly 500 times more powerful than your prefrontal cortex. When it comes to driving behavior, it's faster. It's older in evolutionary terms. It's connected to your autonomic nervous system. Your limbic system controls whether your hands sweat before a presentation, whether your voice steadies or shakes, whether you make eye contact or look away. All the things that determine whether people perceive you as confident have nothing to do with what you're saying in your head. They have everything to do with what your limbic system believes about who you are. This is the belief architecture. Your conscious mind is the surface layer. It's where you hold thoughts, intentions, and desires. I want to be confident. I want to be wealthy. I want to be loved. These are real desires. But they live in the penthouse while your identity lives in the basement. Your identity is the collection of beliefs your limbic system treats as fact. I am the kind of person who struggles financially. I am the kind of person who gets overlooked. I am the kind of person who doesn't finish things. These identity beliefs were installed years ago, most of them before you were 7 years old. They were installed through repetition and emotion. A parent's offhand comment repeated enough times, a series of social rejections that created a pattern, a traumatic event that your brain generalized into a rule about how the world works. Once these beliefs hardened into identity, they became your operating system. Everything you do runs through them. Your brain is not trying to give you what you want. Your brain is trying to keep you consistent with who it thinks you are. This is why willpower fails. This is why motivation fades. This is why you can know exactly what you should do and still not do it. You're fighting your own identity. Every time you try to act outside your identity parameters, your brain generates discomfort, anxiety, doubt, procrastination, physical fatigue. These aren't character flaws, they're defense mechanisms. Your brain is protecting you from the psychological threat of becoming someone you're not. It sounds backwards until you understand the brain's hierarchy of needs. Survival first, consistency second, growth third. Your brain will sacrifice growth to maintain consistency every single time, unless you change the consistency it's protecting. So, let's talk about the conviction gap. This is the distance between what you claim to believe and what you actually believe. Most people have enormous conviction gaps and don't know it. They'll tell you they believe they can build a successful business. Then you watch their behavior, and it tells a different story. They don't follow through on leads. They underprice their services. They apologize for taking up space. They check their bank account 4 times a day with a spike of anxiety. Each time. That's not the behavior of someone who believes they can build a successful business. That's the behavior of someone who's afraid they can't. The words in their head say one thing. The belief in their limbic system says another. The limbic system wins. Here's how you measure your true belief level. Look at your behavior when no one's watching. Look at your automatic reactions. Look at what you do when you're stressed or tired or overwhelmed. Those moments reveal your actual beliefs because your prefrontal cortex goes offline and your limbic system takes over. If you believe you're capable, you keep moving forward under stress. If you don't, you freeze or flee or distract yourself. Your behavior is always honest about your beliefs, even when your thoughts are lying. So take 10 areas of your life right now. Your finances, your relationships, your health, your career, your creativity, your social confidence, your self-discipline, your worthiness, your intelligence, your future. For each one, rate your stated belief on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you claim to believe about your capability in this area? Then rate your lived belief based on your actual behavior. What does your behavior reveal about what you really believe? The gap between those two numbers is your conviction gap. That gap is where your life is leaking energy. Most people have a conviction gap of 5 to 7 points in at least 3 major life areas. They claim to believe they're an 8 in capability, but their behavior shows a 3 in conviction. This creates enormous psychological strain. You're essentially lying to yourself all day, and your subconscious knows it. The strain manifests as background anxiety, chronic second-guessing, imposter syndrome, the feeling that you're always about to be found out. You're about to be found out, but not by other people, by yourself. You're about to confront the fact that you don't actually believe what you've been saying you believe. That confrontation is what most people avoid their entire lives. They stay busy, they stay distracted, they stay in relationships and jobs that match their actual belief level, so they never have to face the gap. But you can't close a gap you won't measure. So measure it. Write down the 10 areas. Write down both numbers. Look at the gaps. That's your starting point. That's the truth beneath the affirmations. Now let's go deeper into identity. Your identity is made of anchors. These are core beliefs about who you are that your brain will defend at all costs. Most people have 3 to 5 dominant identity anchors, and they don't know what they are. These anchors were installed early, and they've been running your life ever since. Here's how to find them. Finish these sentences with the first thing that comes to mind. I am the kind of person who always. I am the kind of person who never. I am the kind of person who can't. I am the kind of person who shouldn't. I am the kind of person who doesn't deserve. Whatever came up in those completions, that's an identity anchor. I am the kind of person who always quits when things get hard. I am the kind of person who never gets picked first. I am the kind of person who can't trust people. I am the kind of person who shouldn't take up too much space. I am the kind of person who doesn't deserve unconditional love. These beliefs feel like facts. They feel like observations about reality. They're not. They're decisions your brain made based on limited data and then defended as truth. Identity anchors override everything. You can have the perfect morning routine. You can have the perfect business plan. You can have the perfect relationship opportunity. If it conflicts with an identity anchor, your brain will sabotage it. Not consciously. You won't wake up and decide to ruin your own life. Your brain will just generate the thoughts and feelings and impulses that steer you back to consistency. You'll forget to follow up on the opportunity. You'll pick a fight with the person who's getting too close. You'll sleep through your alarm. You'll interpret neutral events as confirmation that you were right about yourself all along. See, I knew I'd mess this up. I always do. Your brain doesn't care if you're happy. It cares if you're consistent. And if your identity anchor says you're the kind of person who fails, your brain will manufacture failure to prove itself right. This is where most self-improvement approaches fall apart. They're trying to change behavior without changing identity. They're trying to build a new structure on a foundation that's coded to reject it. You can't build wealth on an identity of I am poor. You can't build confidence on an identity of I am inadequate. You can't build connection on an identity of I am unlovable. The foundation cracks everything you try to build on top of it. So, the work isn't adding more affirmations. The work is going into the basement and replacing the foundation. That's what belief work actually is. It's identity reconstruction. It's deciding which anchors serve you and which ones need to be cut. Then it's the slow, deliberate process of installing new anchors until they feel as real as the old ones did. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Marcus was a software developer who wanted to start his own company. He read every business book. He took every course. He built prototypes. He never launched. For 3 years, he was perpetually 6 months away from launching. He told himself he was being thorough. He told himself he was waiting for the right time. He told himself he needed one more skill. But the real issue was deeper. Marcus had an identity anchor that said, I am the kind of person who works for other people. That belief was installed when he was 12. His father lost his business, and the family almost lost their house. Marcus watched his father go from confident entrepreneur to broken man in 18 months. His brain made a decision. Entrepreneurship equals danger. Safety equals employment. That decision became an identity anchor. When Marcus tried to launch his company, his brain interpreted it as a threat to his survival. It generated doubt. It generated procrastination. It generated logical-sounding reasons to wait. Marcus was fighting himself and losing because he was fighting his own identity. The breakthrough came when Marcus stopped fighting and started listening. He stopped trying to force himself to launch and started asking why he couldn't. That's when he found the anchor. Once he could see it clearly, he could work with it. He didn't try to pretend it wasn't there. He didn't try to override it with positive thinking. He acknowledged it. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. That belief protected me when I was young, but I'm not 12 anymore. I have skills my father didn't have. I have resources he didn't have. I can handle risk differently. Then he started installing a new anchor. Not I am an entrepreneur. That was too big a jump. Instead, I am the kind of person who tests things carefully. That belief his limbic system could accept. It aligned with his need for safety while opening a door to action. He launched a tiny beta version with 10 users. His brain allowed it because it was a test, not a full commitment. Those 10 users became 50. 50 became 200. Each small step installed more evidence for the new identity. Within a year, Marcus had quit his job and was running his company full-time, not because he overcame his fear, because he rebuilt his identity in a way that made the fear irrelevant. That process is what we're learning here. It's not about becoming fearless. It's about becoming someone for whom your old fears don't apply anymore. Your brain is not your enemy. Your resistance is not a flaw. They're both trying to protect a version of you that might be outdated. The work is updating your identity so your protection mechanisms align with your growth instead of blocking it. So right now, take a moment and ask yourself this. What's one belief I say I have, but don't actually live from? Don't rush past that question. Let it sit. Let the answer come up from somewhere deeper than your conscious mind. The answer might surprise you. It might be uncomfortable. That discomfort is information. That's the gap revealing itself. Now we're going to talk about the mechanism that actually installs belief. It's not repetition. It's not visualization alone. It's not logic. It's emotional signature. Every belief you have is coded with a specific emotional frequency. When your brain recalls that belief, it also recalls the emotion that was present when the belief was installed. Fear, shame, joy, safety, power, inadequacy. The emotion is the carrier wave. The belief rides on it. This is why traumatic events create such strong beliefs. The emotion was overwhelming. When emotion is high, the brain stamps whatever's happening as critically important. It creates what neuroscientists call state-dependent memory. The belief and the emotion become fused. Years later, when something triggers that emotion, the belief activates automatically. You feel the same feeling you felt when you were 7, and your whole worldview from that time comes online. You're not actually 7, but your limbic system doesn't know that. It feels the fear and loads the corresponding beliefs. This is both the problem and the solution. If your limiting beliefs are fused with painful emotions, you can't logic your way out of them. But if you can generate new emotions and sustain them long enough, you can install new beliefs using the same mechanism that installed the old ones. This is emotional signature work. It's the practice of deliberately generating the feeling, state of already having what you desire, not the feeling of wanting it, not the feeling of hoping for it, the feeling of having it, right now, as established reality. This is not fake it till you make it. This is not pretending. This is accessing the actual emotional frequency of the belief you want to install and letting your brain code it as real. Here's what that looks like. If you want to install the belief, I am financially secure, you need to feel what financial security feels like in your body, not think about it. Feel it. Financial security has a signature. Your shoulders drop, your breathing deepens, your jaw unclenches. There's a felt sense of groundedness, of options, of ease. Your body knows what that feels like even if you've never had much money. You've had moments of feeling secure. Maybe when you were a child and someone took care of everything. Maybe in a specific situation where you felt completely provided for. Your body has the template. The work is finding it and amplifying it. You close your eyes. You recall a moment when you felt completely secure. You don't need to force it. Just let a memory surface. It might not be about money. That's fine. The feeling is what matters. You drop into that memory. You let yourself feel it fully. The warmth, the ease, the relief. You breathe into it. You let it expand. You notice where you feel it in your body. Chest, belly, shoulders. You stay there. 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. You're not visualizing being rich. You're generating the emotional signature of security. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a memory and a current experience when the emotion is real. So you're showing your brain what security feels like. You're giving it the frequency to code new beliefs onto. This is the missing piece in most manifestation work. People visualize the outcome, but they don't embody the emotion. They see themselves with money, but they feel the anxiety of not having it. That anxiety is what their brain codes. That anxiety is what becomes the belief. The visualization doesn't matter if the emotional signature is wrong. But when you can generate the emotion first, the belief starts to install. Do this practice every morning for 10 minutes. Generate the emotional signature of one belief you want to install. Don't add story. Don't add future thinking. Just feel the feeling. Let your body learn what that state feels like. Over time, your brain will start to default to that emotional frequency. When it does, the corresponding beliefs will start to feel true. Not because you convinced yourself, because you trained your limbic system to recognize a new emotional baseline. That baseline is what shifts everything. Now let's talk about evidence. Your brain is an evidence-collecting machine. It's constantly scanning your environment for data that confirms what it already believes. This is called confirmation bias, and it's one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. If you believe people are generally kind, you notice kindness everywhere. If you believe people are selfish, you notice selfishness everywhere. Both people are living in the same world, but they're having completely different experiences because their brain is filtering reality through different belief lenses. The world isn't objectively one way or another. Your experience of the world is whatever your beliefs are scanning for. This is incredibly good news because it means you can deliberately shift what you're scanning for. You can manufacture evidence for new beliefs until your brain has no choice but to accept them as true. Here's the protocol. Pick one new belief you want to install. Make it specific. I am someone who follows through on commitments. I am someone people trust with important tasks. I am someone who recovers quickly from setbacks. Write it down. Now, commit to finding 3 pieces of evidence for that belief every single day for 30 days. Small evidence counts. Tiny evidence counts. You don't need to win an award. You need to show your brain a pattern. On day 1, you commit to working out, and you do it. That's evidence. You said you'd call someone back, and you did. Evidence. You made a mistake, and instead of spiraling, you corrected it and moved on. Evidence. You write down all 3 pieces. You don't write down the counter-evidence. This is critical. Your brain is already scanning for counter-evidence automatically. You don't need to help it. You need to deliberately override its negativity bias by forcing it to notice evidence it would normally ignore. After 30 days of this practice, something shifts. Your brain starts scanning for confirmation automatically. You've trained it to notice the new pattern. The belief starts to feel true, not because you affirmed it, but because you have a mountain of evidence supporting it. Evidence your brain collected itself. Evidence it can't argue with. This is how you bypass the belief firewall. You don't try to force a new belief past the defenses. You feed the defenses so much evidence that they update themselves. Your brain is designed to update based on data, but it needs consistent, repeated, undeniable data. 3 pieces of evidence per day for 30 days is 90 data points. That's enough to shift most beliefs that aren't attached to major trauma. You're essentially hacking your confirmation bias. You're using the same mechanism that kept you stuck to set you free. Your brain wants to be right, so you show it evidence that being right means believing something new. It will resist at first. The old belief will try to dismiss the evidence. That's normal. Keep logging. Keep noticing. Keep building the case. Around day 10, you'll feel the first crack in the old belief. Around day 20, the new belief will start to feel possible. Around day 30, it will start to feel probable. Keep going past 30, and it becomes fact. This is how belief installation actually works. It's not magic. It's strategic evidence accumulation. Let's bring this into a real scenario. Jennifer was a graphic designer who believed she wasn't good enough to charge premium rates. She'd been freelancing for 8 years, at rates that barely covered her expenses. She wanted to raise her prices, but every time she tried, her stomach dropped. She'd type out the new rate in an email and then delete it. She'd practice saying it out loud and her voice would shake. Her identity anchor said, "I am the kind of person who should be grateful for any work." That belief was installed during the recession when her mother lost her job, and Jennifer watched her beg for positions she was overqualified for. Jennifer's brain learned that you take what you can get, and you don't ask for more. Fast forward 15 years, and Jennifer was an expert designer with a strong portfolio. But her pricing didn't reflect that because her belief system hadn't updated. She decided to try the evidence protocol. Her new belief was, "I am a designer who delivers exceptional value and charges accordingly." Every day she logged 3 pieces of evidence. Day 1, a client sent an unsolicited testimonial praising her work. Evidence. She finished a project 2 days early without being asked. Evidence. She noticed a design flaw in a client's brand that would have cost them conversions, and she fixed it proactively. Evidence. She wrote all 3 down. Day 2, she did it again. A client referred her to someone else. Evidence. She solved a design problem that had stumped the client's previous designer. Evidence. She received a request to present at a local design meetup. Evidence. By day 15, she had 45 pieces of evidence that she delivered exceptional value. Her brain couldn't ignore that. The old belief started to feel less solid. By day 30, she had 90 pieces of evidence. She raised her rates by 40%. 3 clients said yes immediately. Her brain logged that as more evidence. Within 60 days, she was fully booked at her new rates and turning people away. The belief had installed, not because she pretended to be confident, because she built an undeniable case. This is the power of evidence manufacturing. You're not waiting for reality to change. You're changing what you notice about reality until your brain updates its model. Most of the evidence for your new belief already exists. You're just not scanning for it. Once you train yourself to see it, it compounds. The new belief makes you act differently. Acting differently creates new results. New results create more evidence. The loop accelerates. This is how you get momentum, not through motivation, through belief shifts that change your automatic behavior. So ask yourself right now, where's the biggest gap between my stated belief and my lived belief? Take a moment with that. Don't just think an answer. Feel where the gap is. You know where it is. You've known for a long time. That's the belief to work on first. That's where the evidence protocol will have the most impact. Now we need to talk about resistance, because here's what's going to happen when you start doing this work. Part of you is going to fight it, hard. You'll start the evidence journal, and on day 3, you'll forget. On day 5, you'll feel stupid doing it. On day 8, you'll convince yourself it's not working. That's not you being weak. That's your resistance activating. Resistance is your brain's immune system. It's designed to attack anything that threatens your current identity. Even if your current identity is making you miserable, it's known. Your brain treats known misery as safer than unknown possibility. So, when you try to install a new belief, resistance shows up to stop you. It doesn't show up as a voice saying, "I am your resistance, and I'm here to keep you stuck." It shows up as reasonable-sounding thoughts. "This is dumb. This isn't working. I don't have time for this. I'll start again on Monday." These thoughts feel like you. They feel like your authentic opinion. They're not. They're your resistance doing its job. The key is not fighting resistance. Fighting it makes it stronger. The key is understanding what it's protecting. All resistance is protection. It's trying to keep you safe from something. The question is what? For most people, resistance is protecting them from one of 3 things. Disappointment. If you never really try, you never really fail. Your resistance keeps you in the safe zone of half effort, so you always have the excuse that you didn't give it your all. Visibility. If you succeed, people will see you. They'll have expectations. They might criticize you. Your resistance keeps you small so you stay safe from judgment or loss of belonging. If you change, you might outgrow your current relationships. Your resistance keeps you stuck, so you don't risk losing connection with the people who know you as you are. All 3 of these are rooted in real fears. Your resistance isn't irrational. It's trying to help. It's just using outdated threat assessment. What felt dangerous when you were 7 might not be dangerous now. But your limbic system doesn't update automatically. You have to update it manually. Here's how. When you notice resistance, don't push through it. Pause. Ask it a question. What are you trying to protect me from? Then listen. Actually listen. Don't analyze. Don't Dismiss. Just let an answer come. It might be immediate. It might take a few minutes. But something will surface. When it does, acknowledge it. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. Then evaluate whether the threat is real. Am I actually in danger if I install this new belief? Most of the time, the answer is no. But your resistance doesn't know that until you examine it consciously. Once you've identified what it's protecting, you can negotiate with it. I understand you're worried I'll be disappointed if this doesn't work, but staying stuck guarantees disappointment. Taking action gives me a chance. Your resistance isn't stupid. It responds to logic when you engage it with respect. Once it understands that staying stuck is actually more dangerous than growing, it often steps aside. Sometimes resistance is protecting something deeper. Sometimes it's protecting a need that's not being met. If your resistance is blocking you from becoming visible, maybe it's because you don't have enough safety in your relationships. You need to know that people will still love you if you succeed. If your resistance is blocking you from trying, maybe it's because you've equated your worth with your achievement and you're terrified of confirming you're worthless. In those cases, the resistance won't release until you address the underlying need. You might need to have conversations with people. You might need to do deeper identity work on separating your worth from your performance. You might need to grieve the safety you thought staying small would give you. This work isn't always comfortable, but it's necessary. You can't install new beliefs while ignoring the part of you that's blocking them. At some point, you have to turn around and face your resistance. When you do, you'll find it's not a monster. It's a scared part of you that's been doing its best to help. Once you see it clearly, you can work with it instead of against it. Let's talk about assumption hardening. This is the next level of belief work. An assumption is a belief you hold with zero doubt. The sun will rise tomorrow. Gravity will pull objects down. Water is wet. You don't question these things. You don't need evidence to believe them. They're assumptions. They're baked into your operating system. Most of your limiting beliefs started as assumptions, too. They were installed so young and so completely that you never thought to question them. The goal of assumption hardening is to take a desired belief and turn it into an assumption, to make it feel so obvious that questioning it seems absurd. This doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen with the right process. Here's the process. Pick the belief you want to harden into assumption. Write it in present tense as if it's already completely true. I am financially abundant. I am deeply loved. I am capable of building anything I set my mind to. Now, you're going to live from that assumption for 30 days. Not hope for it. Not try to make it true. Assume it's already true and let your behavior flow from that assumption. This is subtle but critical. You're not asking, what do I need to do to become financially abundant? You're asking, what would I do today if I already was? The first question puts you in pursuit mode. The second question puts you in embodiment mode. Pursuit mode is future-focused. You're chasing something you don't have. That creates tension. That tension reinforces the belief that you don't have it. Embodiment mode is present-focused. You're acting as if it's already true. That creates alignment. That alignment installs the belief. So if your assumption is, I am financially abundant, you ask yourself every morning, what would someone who is financially abundant do today? Maybe they'd order the higher quality coffee without checking the price. Maybe they'd invest in a course without agonizing over the cost. Maybe they'd tip generously. Maybe they'd pass on a low-value opportunity without fear. These are small acts, but they're acts that someone with abundance would take. When you take them, you're sending your brain evidence. You're showing it that you're the kind of person who moves through the world from abundance. Your brain doesn't distinguish between big acts and small acts. It distinguishes between consistent patterns and isolated incidents. A small, abundant act repeated daily is more powerful than a big, abundant act once, because the daily repetition is what installs the pattern. That pattern is what becomes your new assumption. The resistance will tell you this is fake. It will tell you you're pretending. Let it talk. You're not pretending. You're practicing. You're training your nervous system to operate from a new baseline. The first few days will feel awkward. That's normal. You're doing something unfamiliar. By day 7, it will feel less awkward. By day 14, it will start to feel natural. By day 30, it will feel automatic. That's the shift from belief to assumption. When it's automatic, you've hardened it. From there, it compounds. Your assumption changes your behavior. Your behavior changes your results. Your results create evidence. The evidence strengthens the assumption. The loop locks in. This is how you become someone new. Not by trying to change, by assuming you already are and letting the change follow. Let me show you what this looked like for David. He was a sales manager who wanted to believe he was a leader. People naturally followed. His current belief was, I'm good at my job, but I'm not really leadership material. That belief was running his life. He'd get promoted into leadership roles and then sabotage himself. He'd micromanage. He'd avoid difficult conversations. He'd defer to others instead of making decisions. Then he'd get feedback that he lacked executive presence, and the belief would reinforce. He decided to try assumption hardening. His new assumption was, I am a natural leader who brings out the best in others. Every morning for 30 days, he asked himself, what would a natural leader do today? Day 1, he had a team meeting. The old David would have talked 70% of the time. The natural leader asked more questions. He listened more. He created space for others to step up. It felt uncomfortable, but he did it anyway. Day 3, one of his team members missed a deadline. The old David would have fixed it himself to avoid conflict. The natural leader had a direct conversation. This didn't meet our agreement. What happened? The conversation was hard, but leaders have hard conversations. Day 10, he had an opportunity to pitch a new initiative to the executive team. The old David would have over-prepared and then hedged his recommendation. The natural leader prepared his point of view and stated it clearly. He didn't apologize. He didn't qualify. He made a case and stood behind it. The executives approved the initiative. That was evidence. Day by day, David acted from the assumption that he was already a natural leader. By day 30, his team was responding to him differently. They were bringing him ideas instead of waiting for direction. They were solving problems on their own. His boss commented that something had shifted. David had executive presence now. But David hadn't tried to have executive presence. He'd assumed he was already a leader, and his behavior had aligned. The assumption had hardened. He didn't have to think about it anymore. It was just who he was. That's the power of this process. You're not becoming someone new. You're deciding you already are and letting your brain catch up. Your brain is incredibly adaptive. It will reorganize itself around whatever you consistently demonstrate. Demonstrate limitation, and it will code for limitation. Demonstrate capability, and it will code for capability. The choice is yours. The assumption you harden is the life you build. So, what assumption do you want to harden? What would change if you lived from that assumption starting today? Take a moment and really feel into that question. What would change if you stopped trying to become and started assuming you already are? Now we need to talk about the belief ladder, because here's where a lot of people fail. They try to jump from I am broke to I am a millionaire. They try to jump from I am anxious to I am completely confident. Those jumps are too big. Your brain won't make them. It's not that the end belief is impossible. It's that there are stepping stone beliefs in between that need to be installed first. This is the belief ladder. You can't skip rungs. You have to climb one at a time. Each rung is a belief your brain can actually accept right now. Once that belief installs, the next rung becomes reachable. You keep climbing until you get where you want to go. This is slower than people want, but it's faster than trying to leap and falling repeatedly. Here's how to build your ladder. Start with the belief you have right now. Be honest. I am struggling financially. Write it down. That's the bottom rung. Now write the belief you want at the top. I am wealthy and financially free. That's the top rung. Now fill in the middle. What belief sits between struggling and wealthy that you could actually believe right now? Maybe I am learning to manage money better. That feels reachable. You can find evidence for that. That's rung 2. What's the next belief after that? Maybe I am making smarter financial decisions consistently. That's rung 3. Then I am generating more income than I spend. Rung 4. Then I am building wealth steadily. Rung 5. Then I am financially secure. Rung 6. Then I am wealthy and financially free. Top rung. Each of these beliefs is close enough to the previous one that your brain won't reject it. Each one has evidence you can find or create. This is the ladder. You don't try to climb all 6 rungs at once. You work on rung 2 until it feels solid. Then you move to rung 3. The mistake most people make is trying to install the top rung belief when they're still on the bottom rung. They do affirmations for wealth while their bank account screams poverty. Their brain rejects it. The dissonance creates despair. They quit. But if they just installed I am learning to manage money better first, they'd have momentum. That belief would change their behavior. Better behavior would create better results. Better results would make rung 3 feel reachable. The latter approach works because it respects how your brain actually updates. It doesn't leap, it steps. One belief at a time. One piece of evidence at a time. But those steps compound. Within 6 months of climbing a well-constructed belief ladder, you can be living at a level that seemed impossible from the bottom rung. Not because you convinced yourself of something fake, because you installed beliefs sequentially in a way your brain could integrate. So, build your ladder. Pick the belief that matters most to you right now. Write your current belief. Write your desired belief. Fill in the middle rungs. Make sure each rung is close enough to the previous one that it feels like a stretch but not a fantasy. Then work on the next rung only. Use the evidence protocol. Use assumption hardening. Use emotional signature work. Stay on that rung until it feels solid. You'll know it's solid when you stop thinking about it. When it just feels normal. That's when you move to the next rung. This might take a week. It might take a month. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're building real belief instead of fake affirmations. Real belief changes everything. Fake affirmations change nothing. So be patient with the ladder. Trust the process. Every rung you install is a permanent upgrade to your operating system. Let's talk about loop closure. This is the moment when your external reality starts reflecting your new internal belief. This is the feedback moment. It's what most people are waiting for. They want proof that the work is working. The tricky part is that loop closure doesn't happen on your timeline. It happens on reality's timeline. You might install a new belief and see results in 3 days. You might install a new belief and see results in 3 months. The lag time varies based on the belief, the domain, and how much external change is required. But loop closure always comes if you hold the belief long enough. Your external world is always reorganizing itself to match your internal world. It's just working on a delay. Think of it like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You water it. You give it sun. You trust that underground things are happening. Then one day you see a sprout. That's loop closure. The key is recognizing the early signals. Loop closure doesn't usually show up as one big dramatic event. It shows up as small shifts that are easy to miss if you're not paying attention. Someone treats you differently. An opportunity appears that wasn't there before. You handle a situation in a way you couldn't have handled before. You feel different in your body when facing something that used to trigger you. These are all signals that your belief has installed and reality is adjusting. Most people miss these signals because they're looking for the big proof. They're waiting for the job offer, the relationship, the bank account. But the job offer is the end of the loop, not the beginning. The beginning is subtle. It's energetic. It's vibrational. You start showing up differently. People start responding to you differently. Opportunities that weren't a match for your old belief start being a match for your new one. You have to notice these shifts. You have to log them. Because they're the evidence that loop closure is happening. Here's the protocol for recognizing loop closure signals. Every week, write down what changed, not what you did. What changed around you without you forcing it. Someone reached out with an opportunity. You felt calm in a situation that usually makes you anxious. Someone complimented you on something related to your new belief. A problem solved itself. Money showed up from an unexpected source. You had an insight that shifted your perspective. These are all loop closure signals. They're reality confirming that your belief has installed. When you log them, you're training your brain to notice the feedback loop. The more you notice it, the faster it accelerates. Because your brain starts to trust that the new belief is generating real results. That trust deepens the belief. Deeper belief generates more results. More results generate more trust. This is the compounding phase. This is when the work gets easier, because reality is helping you instead of resisting you. But here's the part no one tells you. Sometimes loop closure looks like things falling apart. Sometimes your new belief requires your old life to restructure. If you install the belief, I am someone who is deeply valued, the relationship where you're tolerated might end. That feels like loss, but it's actually loop closure. Your new belief is clearing space for what matches it. If you install the belief, I am capable of building wealth, the low-paying job might become unbearable. That discomfort is loop closure. Your brain is rejecting the mismatch. The falling apart is necessary. It's making room for the new structure. Most people panic when this happens. They think they did something wrong. They think the belief work failed. The opposite is true. The belief work succeeded so completely that it's forcing a realignment. Your external life is catching up to your internal shift. It's uncomfortable, but it's working. Trust it. Don't try to hold on to the old structure while building the new one. Let the old fall away. The gap between the old falling and the new arriving is where your faith gets tested. That gap is the evidence that you actually changed at a deep level. If nothing fell away, the belief didn't install. It just sat on the surface. Real belief restructures everything. Now let's talk about immunity, because this is where most people fail long-term. They install a new belief. They get loop closure. Things start working. Then they hit contradiction. The job doesn't work out. The relationship ends. The money dries up. The contradiction triggers their old belief. All the work collapses. They're back to square one. This is the immunity challenge. Can you maintain your belief when external reality contradicts it? This is the ultimate test of belief installation. Anyone can believe when things are going well. That's not belief. That's just observing reality. True belief is holding your conviction when the evidence isn't there yet, when the circumstances are screaming the opposite, when logic says you're delusional. That's when belief becomes power. Immunity isn't about denying reality. It's about interpreting reality differently. When you hit contradiction, your old belief says, "See, I knew this wouldn't work." Your new belief says this is temporary, this is feedback, this is adjusting. The difference between those two interpretations is everything. One collapses your progress, the other maintains it. So, how do you build immunity? You practice holding your belief in the face of small contradictions first. You don't wait for the big test. You train on the small ones. Every day, something will happen that could contradict your new belief. You'll apply for something and get rejected. You'll try something and fail. Someone will criticize you. Your bank account will be lower than you want. These are all opportunities to practice immunity. When the contradiction hits, you pause. You notice the old belief trying to activate. Then you choose the new interpretation. This isn't evidence that I'm not capable. This is evidence that I'm learning. This isn't evidence that I'm not worthy. This is evidence that this particular opportunity wasn't aligned. This isn't evidence that I can't build wealth. This is evidence that I need to adjust my strategy. This practice is mental. It's a choice. At first, the new interpretation will feel forced. The old belief will feel more true. That's fine. You're not trying to feel it yet. You're trying to choose it consciously. Over time, the new interpretation will start to feel more natural. Eventually, it becomes automatic. When it's automatic, you have immunity. Contradiction can't collapse you because your brain doesn't interpret it as proof of failure anymore. It interprets it as data, as adjustment, as part of the process. This is the difference between fragile belief and robust belief. Fragile belief needs constant confirmation. Robust belief can handle contradiction without breaking. You're building robust belief. That means you have to test it. You have to let it face contradiction while it's still forming. Don't protect yourself from challenge. Let the challenge come. Use it to strengthen the belief. Every time you hold your belief through contradiction, the belief hardens. It becomes less dependent on external validation. Eventually, it becomes completely internal. At that point, you're free. Your belief isn't contingent on circumstances anymore. It's foundational. It's who you are, regardless of what's happening around you. Here's what that looked like for Rachel. She installed the belief, I am someone who creates valuable work that people want to pay for. She'd been undercharging as a consultant for years. She raised her rates. 3 clients said yes. Then she lost a pitch to a competitor who charged half her rate. The old Rachel would have panicked, would have dropped her rates, would have said, "See, I'm not actually worth that much." But she'd been practicing immunity. When the contradiction hit, she paused. She noticed the old belief trying to activate. Then she chose the new interpretation. This isn't evidence that I'm overpriced. This is evidence that this client valued cost over quality. That's fine. They're not my ideal client. She held her rates. She kept pitching. 2 weeks later, she landed a client who paid double what she asked without negotiating. That client became her biggest advocate. Within 6 months, she had more work than she could handle at her new rates. But the turning point was that first moment of contradiction, when she could have collapsed but chose immunity instead. That choice is what separates people who transform from people who cycle. So, how do you practice immunity starting now? Every time something doesn't go the way you wanted, pause before reacting. Notice what your old belief wants to say about it. Then consciously choose a new interpretation, one that maintains your new belief while acknowledging the reality. This doesn't mean bypassing your emotions. Feel disappointed, feel frustrated, feel whatever comes up. But don't let those emotions rewrite your belief. You can feel disappointed and still believe you're capable. You can feel frustrated and still believe you're on the right path. Emotions are temporary. Beliefs are foundational. Don't confuse the two. The immunity practice is separating emotional reaction from belief interpretation. That separation is what keeps you stable while reality reorganizes. Now we're moving into the transmission phase. This is one of the most fascinating parts of belief work, and most people never get here because they quit before their beliefs fully install. Transmission is when your belief becomes so solid that it broadcasts itself energetically. People start responding to you differently, and they don't know why. You haven't told them you changed. You haven't explained your new beliefs, but they feel it. They sense it, and they adjust their behavior accordingly. This isn't mystical, it's behavioral. When your belief changes, your micro-expressions change, your tonality changes, your body language changes, the timing of your responses changes. All of these shifts happen below conscious awareness. You're not trying to change them. They change automatically because your nervous system is operating from a different baseline. Other people's nervous systems pick up on these signals and respond. This is the transmission effect. Here's what it looks like in practice. When you believe you're valuable, you don't ask for permission. You don't apologize for taking up space. You don't over-explain. You state things simply, and you're comfortable with silence. You don't need to convince anyone because you're not trying to convince yourself. That shift is palpable. People who used to talk over you start listening. People who used to dismiss you start taking you seriously. People who used to test you start respecting your boundaries immediately. None of this requires you to be aggressive or demanding. It happens naturally because your belief has transmitted. Your energy has changed. The field around you has changed. People respond to the field more than they respond to your words. When your field says, I am valuable, people treat you as valuable. When your field says, I am uncertain, people test you. The field is generated by your belief. Change the belief and the field changes. Change the field and the responses change. This is why belief work is more powerful than strategy. Strategy is what you do. Transmission is who you're being. Who you're being determines how people respond. How people respond determines what opportunities become available. What opportunities become available determines your results. Your results reinforce your belief. The loop is complete, but it all starts with the belief, not the strategy. Most people work on strategy for years and wonder why they're not getting different results. They're getting the same results because they're transmitting the same belief. Change the belief and the strategy becomes irrelevant. The right opportunities start appearing. The right people start reaching out. The right timing starts aligning. Not because you're doing more, because you're being different. That difference transmits. People feel it. They respond to it. Your external world reorganizes around it. Start paying attention to how people respond to you over the next 2 weeks. Don't change your behavior consciously. Just notice. Are people interrupting you less? Are they asking for your opinion more? Are they treating you with more respect? Are they offering you opportunities they didn't offer before? These are all signs that your belief has started to transmit. The more you notice it, the more it accelerates, because you're confirming to yourself that the work is real. That confirmation deepens the belief. Deeper belief strengthens the transmission. Stronger transmission creates better responses. Better responses create more confirmation. This is the phase where belief work becomes effortless. You're not trying anymore. You're just being, and being is enough. Let me show you one final scenario that brings all of this together. There was a woman named Lisa who came to this work completely skeptical. She'd tried affirmations. She'd tried vision boards. She'd tried every manifestation technique on the internet. Nothing worked. She was drowning in debt. She was in a relationship that felt more like a prison than a partnership. She was working a job that made her feel invisible. She was convinced that positive thinking was a scam designed to keep people hopeful while nothing changed. But something in her was desperate enough to try one more time. She committed to 30 days of belief work with the agreement that if nothing shifted, she'd let it go and accept that her life was just going to be hard. She started with the conviction gap exercise. She realized her stated belief was, "I deserve abundance and love," but her lived belief was, "I'm lucky if I can just survive without things getting worse." The gap was enormous. She could see how every decision she made came from survival mode. She never invested in herself because what if she needed that money for an emergency? She never set boundaries in her relationship because what if he left and she ended up alone? She never asked for more at work because what if they realized they could replace her? Every choice was fear-based. Every choice reinforced the belief that she was fragile and the world was dangerous. She'd been running that program for 37 years. It was installed when she was 5 and watched her parents scream about money and threaten divorce. Her brain decided love equals chaos and money equals scarcity. That decision became her operating system. The first week was brutal. She did the emotional signature work and couldn't access the feeling of security. Every time she tried, anxiety flooded in. So she started smaller. She found a memory of feeling safe. It was sitting with her grandmother in her garden, the warm sun, the smell of flowers, the feeling that nothing could hurt her there. She stayed in that memory for 10 minutes every morning, just feeling safe, not trying to fix anything, just training her nervous system to remember what safety felt like. By day 7, she could access the feeling without the memory. She could generate safety on demand. That was the first shift. Then she started the evidence protocol. Her new belief was, I am someone who makes smart decisions that improve my life. She logged 3 pieces of evidence every day. Day 1, she made coffee at home instead of buying it. Evidence. She sent a difficult email she'd been avoiding. Evidence. She went to bed on time instead of doom scrolling. Evidence. Tiny decisions. But they were smart decisions. By day 10, she had 30 pieces of evidence. Her brain was starting to accept that maybe she wasn't as helpless as she thought. Day 15, something bigger happened. She had a conversation with her partner about something that had been bothering her. Normally, she'd swallow it to keep the peace. This time, she spoke up. He got defensive at first, but then he softened. They actually talked. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. That was evidence of a different kind. I am someone who can handle conflict. She logged it. By day 20, her behavior had shifted enough that her external reality started responding. Her boss pulled her into a meeting. She assumed she was in trouble. Instead, he asked if she'd be interested in leading a new project. It came with a small raise. Not huge, but more than she'd ever asked for. She said yes, without hesitating. The old Lisa would have asked if he was sure. The new Lisa just accepted it as obvious. That was transmission. Her belief had changed her energy. Her energy had changed how he saw her. The opportunity followed. Day 25. She made a decision about her relationship. She told her partner she needed things to change, or she was leaving. It was the scariest conversation of her life. He didn't get angry. He didn't shut down. He said he'd been waiting for her to say something because he could feel her pulling away. They started couples therapy. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was movement. It was honesty. It was both of them showing up. Day 30 came. Lisa sat down to journal about what had changed, everything and nothing. Her bank account hadn't magically filled. Her relationship wasn't perfect. Her job was still her job. But she was different. She didn't feel fragile anymore. She didn't feel like the world was something to survive. She felt like she had agency, like her choices mattered, like she could handle things. That shift was everything, because from that foundation, she could build. Over the next 6 months, she kept going. She installed more beliefs. I am capable of creating income beyond my salary. She started a side project. I am worthy of a relationship where I'm seen. Her relationship deepened or it would end, but either way, she'd be okay. I am someone who finishes what she starts. She completed things, projects, books, commitments. Each belief installed. Each one changed her behavior. Each behavior change created results. Each result reinforced the belief. A year later, Lisa's life looked completely different. She'd tripled her income through her side business. She'd left her old job. Her relationship had transformed into something neither of them knew was possible. Her debt was gone. But more than any of that, she was different. She moved through the world like someone who expected good things. Not because she was naive, because she'd installed the beliefs that made good things likely. People responded to her differently. Opportunities appeared that didn't exist before. She wasn't lucky. She'd changed her operating system. And when you change your operating system, you change what's possible. That's what this work is. It's not about pretending. It's not about denying reality. It's about understanding that your beliefs create the lens through which you see reality. Change the lens, and reality looks different. Change the lens enough, and reality becomes different. Because you start noticing different things. You start doing different things. You start becoming different. And the world reorganizes around who you become. This is not theory. This is mechanism. This is how transformation actually happens. Not through willpower, not through motivation, through belief installation, through identity reconstruction, through operating system upgrades that happen so deep in your subconscious that your conscious mind just gets to enjoy the results. So now we arrive at the final piece, living from established belief rather than chasing it. This is the difference between doing the work and being the work. When you start this process, you're doing practices, you're logging evidence, you're generating emotional signatures, you're climbing the belief ladder. All of that is active. All of that requires effort. But at some point, the practices drop away. The belief becomes automatic. You're not trying to believe anymore. You just do. You don't think about it. It's like breathing. You don't have to remember to be confident. You're just confident. You don't have to convince yourself. You're capable. You just act from capability. This is established belief. This is the new normal. The marker of established belief is that you forget you didn't always think this way. Someone will ask you how you stay so calm under pressure, and you'll be genuinely confused by the question. Because you don't feel like you're doing anything special. You're just being yourself. But yourself has changed. The old version of you would have panicked. The new version doesn't even register it as something to panic about. That shift is so complete that the old belief feels like a story about someone else. You can remember that you used to think differently, but you can't access the feeling of it anymore. That's when you know the belief has fully installed. It's not a practice anymore. It's your identity. And from that identity, everything flows differently. Living from established belief means you stop second-guessing yourself. You make decisions quickly because you trust yourself. You set boundaries without guilt because you know your worth. You take action without needing permission because you believe you're capable. You handle setbacks without collapsing because you have immunity. You recognize opportunities because your belief makes you scan for them. You build momentum because your behavior is consistent with your belief. This is the compounding phase. This is where years of struggle get replaced by flow. Not because life gets easier, because you get stronger. Your beliefs make you stronger. And strength attracts different circumstances than weakness does. This is also where you start impacting others differently. When your belief is established, you don't preach it, you don't explain it, you just live it. And people notice. They ask you what changed. They want to know your secret. The secret is there is no secret. You just decided to believe something new, and you stayed with it until it became true. You built the evidence. You climbed the ladder. You developed immunity. You let your old life fall apart. You trusted the process. And now you're on the other side. The other side isn't perfect, but it's yours. It's built on beliefs you chose instead of beliefs that were installed in you by accident. That difference is freedom. So where do you go from here? You take everything you've learned and you apply it. You pick one belief to work on, not 10. 1. You measure your conviction gap. You identify your identity anchors. You build your belief ladder. You start logging evidence. You practice emotional signature work. You develop immunity. You watch for transmission effects. You notice loop closure. You do the work. Not for 30 days and then stop. For as long as it takes. Because belief installation isn't a quick fix. It's a foundational shift. And foundational shifts take time. But the time passes whether you're doing the work or not. You can spend the next year running the same limiting beliefs and getting the same limited results. Or you can spend the next year installing new beliefs and watching your reality transform. Either way, a year from now, you'll be somewhere. The question is where. The tools are in your hands now. You understand the belief architecture. You understand why affirmations don't work and what does work. You understand that your brain is not your enemy. It's a machine that's running outdated programming. You can update the programming. You can install new beliefs. You can become someone different. Not by pretending. By doing the work that makes it real. The work is simple, but it's not easy. It requires consistency. It requires honesty. It requires facing the parts of yourself that are scared to change. But on the other side of that fear is everything you've been wanting. Not because you'll suddenly have perfect circumstances. Because you'll be someone who can create circumstances instead of being subject to them. That's the shift, from effect to cause, from victim to architect, from hoping to knowing. You arrived here skeptical that words could change anything. You're leaving with a rewired belief operating system, not because you repeated better affirmations, because you learned the architecture beneath the words. Your brain now accepts new beliefs as installable software. You know how to bypass your own resistance. You can manufacture evidence your subconscious trusts. Most importantly, you've felt the shift from hoping to knowing. That feeling, that certainty, is your new baseline. Everything you build from here stands on conviction, not wish. Welcome to life beyond affirmations. Your belief system is now under your conscious control. What you do with that control is up to you. But you can't unknow what you now know. You can't go back to thinking your beliefs are fixed. They're not. They're choices. And you get to choose. Every single day, you get to choose what you believe. And what you believe determines everything else. So, choose wisely. Choose consciously. Choose beliefs that serve the life you actually want instead of beliefs that keep you safe in the life you're trying to leave. The power has always been yours. You just needed to know how to access it. Now you do. Everything that comes next is what you build with that power. Make it count.